Alright guys, welcome back to the third, I believe, episode of Completely Pointless. Today you got the normals with you. I'm Jeremy.
Nick.
And I'm Brandon.
And so I know you guys had some topics you wanted to talk about, but before that, I think we need to get a little serious, have a serious moment here for a second.
Oh no.
We talked about some stuff last week that didn't go over very well, and some people are upset. I'm very sorry. I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the table. We don't agree with what we said, but we do believe in it. I just want everyone to know that we will never call it Pokemon Arceus again, alright? We realize it's Pokemon Arceus.
It's Arceus, yes.
And we just want to say we're sorry.
Wait, who was upset about that?
No one.
I
Me.
apologize so much. so deeply.
Nick, how are you saying you're not
core
sorry?
of my being.
How dare
No,
you?
dude, I'm not sorry at all.
Dare you?
How can I be wrong whenever I didn't even know I was wrong in the first place? Okay.
I mean, you can definitely still be very wrong.
Never, dude.
I don't know. But
if you ever worked with me, you'd know I'm never wrong, dude.
I know
I've just known you for years, and I know you that way.
Sound like all my old.
We would argue so much.
Oh yeah, dude.
And Nick would just argue because he knew it irked me.
Oh yeah. You should ask Noah.
Argue the dumbest fucking points.
You should ask Noah and Sam. I'm still the same. Have not changed.
No, I know you are. I absolutely know you are.
So do we want to save yours for later, Brandon, since it's going to be a hot take for us?
Yeah, we can save mine for a little bit.
Cool.
We're all about hot takes here. That's why we have to apologize so much.
Would y'all want to go ahead and start it off with the one that was suggested?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So
sounds like
we got suggested a topic to discuss, or just talk about, conversate about, share our opinions for video games. Quality over quantity. So what we're seeing a lot in today, and this was a suggestion from one of my coworkers, Ryan Brunston. He's also a friend. And basically talking about how the games being released lately have been just kind of pushed out, early. Obviously early. The companies will say it's not early, but they come out a broken mess, and it's just been like, this constant flow of video games. Because, we get new video games every year, so not always from the same developer, but
basically saying from the same developer.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Like, the sports games are an example. Just Cyberpunk, Fallout 76. I really want to talk about Fallout 76, personally.
Yeah. Well, for that, I saw you mention, or you had Cyberpunk's written down. Are you saying that's a quality or a quantity game?
Well, it's just one of those games I feel like was pushed out too early.
Yeah, I can definitely see
like
that,
it was rushed. Like it's quantity over quantity, right? They're just pushing these games out before they're ready, just to get the quantity out. Because
see, I don't know if that one I would say it was rushed. More of they just had a lot of programming or a lot of like back end problems going into it. So
in that case, it wasn't ready to be released, right?
Well, yeah, but you could also make the argument that once a company, especially like CD Projekt Red, who doesn't do a lot of, they don't release a whole lot. They only have a certain amount of games every year. If they just continuously develop on this one game endlessly and never release it, they're going to go bankrupt. So there is a point where they have to release it, no matter what state it's in. So it may not really be that they're rushing it. It's just more like, if we don't release this now, get that surge of games off of the original release, or surge of money, then we're going to go under, and this game's not going to get released.
Was that the case, though, for Cyberpunk? Do you know?
I
don't think so. I don't think that was the case for Cyberpunk.
There were no reports saying that's what happened. No one actually confirmed it, but they were developing that game for what, like, ever since Witcher 3 came out, so it was 10 years, something like that.
Well, then that means, to me, that just means they need to reprioritize. Right? If you're struggling to get a game out on your deadline, then you need to reprioritize and either make the game not look nearly as crazy or good, and focus more so on the gameplay aspect and the functionality, right?
You need to cut back on the feature creep. They just let's add, sex games in, and let's add gambling games in, and let's make cars that will drive themselves. And
So I got a take for this, and it's pretty hot.
Go ahead.
Like it. Talking about the main character of Cyberpunk?
No. Just kind of the topic in general. It kind of falls under, for me, like, yes, quantity over quality.
You mean quality over quantity? Or the game Cyberpunk falls into a quality or quantity over quality?
It's not so much as Cyberpunk. It's part of me deep down, the internet ruined gaming.
How so?
That's a spicy take right there.
I kind of agree, but
we're gonna have to apologize again next week.
I want to hear Brandon's explanation.
Sorry, internet.
So, back in the day, before the internet, so really, like, the original Xbox was kind of the first one that had internet connectivity, but it wasn't so much. It was internet connectivity to play with your friends, right?
Yeah.
They didn't really have downloaded patches. Like, the disc is the game you play.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had some downloaded patches back then.
I mean, yeah, but I get what you're saying. Like,
but so in that time, the CD released is the exact game that the developers expected you to play.
Oh yeah.
So they had to go about
to make sure it was finished.
Had to make sure it had minimal bugs.
Right.
So
I mean, I get what you're saying now. I get what you're saying.
They had to release a finished game.
Right, like it couldn't be a buggy mess and fix it later kind of idea, right?
Yeah, because gaming now is, well, we can ship these CDs out, but we have another team working for a day one patch. So
right, like
now,
hot fixes right out the gate. And you're like,
so okay. Now you get a CD and you have to take 2 hours to download it, and then you have to take another 2 hours to download a patch first day to fix a broken game.
Well, but also, it's not like, in some developers, that is the case, but in other ones, most games, they're still finishing the game up to the release date, and they don't get to decide the release dates, they're told the release dates. But in order to be able to get all their, CDs into stores and be able to fulfill all those orders, they have to start the printing of those CDs months, if not years ahead of the release date. So of course they're not going to have the game done, because they're working on it on these tight deadlines. So I get what you're saying. Whereas a lot of people rely on those patches too heavily. Whereas they are like, we'll just fix it in post. But I don't think it's always necessarily the developers like trying to take advantage of it.
No, I'm not saying like the developers. I mean, my main gripe is with these executives who are just don't understand the process it takes, right? Like how long it actually takes and how much work it actually takes to do this kind of thing. Whereas they're like, oh, you guys aren't done yet? Well, you should have been done because this is the release date. And they're like, well, it's not going to be a great game whenever it comes out and it's going to get review bombed. And now our company is going to look terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Bethesda. I mean, Bethesda completely tarnished their reputation with 76. I mean, I still haven't played 76, but Brian was saying that it's better now. It's still not perfect, but I mean, what Bethesda game has ever been perfect?
Yeah.
I mean, but even 76 was the worst by far, though.
Kind of the positive side of that is it does give developers a chance to fix any problems. Like, they may not have realized there was a problem there, and then they're like, now I can give you some updates and fix everything. Whereas I can
accept that, but
totally cool.
For the most part, it's like, how many AAA games have you seen come out in the last 5 years that didn't have a day one patch?
Yeah, almost none. I mean, most of them do.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I can't complain about all the patches because game development is very difficult.
Oh, and I know it is, but it's just one of those things that it's always going to be a much less lackluster, like back in PlayStation 2 days. You went to the store, You bought a game, you went home, you put the game in, you played the game. Not you went to the store, you bought a game, you came home, you waited 2 hours to play the game, you hit launch, and it says, "Oh, you need to update this game."
Well,
And then you wait
even
another 2 hours, and then you play the game.
even aside from that, say there isn't a day one patch. I mean, most of these games come out broken and unplayable. Cyberpunk was completely unplayable, almost like
Yeah,
basically
it was pretty
unplayable.
bad.
So
It was
you know, if you're
unplayable
gonna come
on
out,
consoles. It was pretty.
right,
It was
but
pretty
they
alright on
released it.
PCs.
They released it knowing that though. Like
Yeah,
they
that's
knew
true.
very well and good that it wasn't playable. So it's like, why release?
Well, but
Why
again,
it was
it probably goes back to there's just some executives saying you have to release the game now because their accountants are screaming, "Hey, we haven't had a solid income in 10 years. We're gonna go under if you don't sell this game right now."
right, but nobody's saying make these massive games that are just like don't quit trying to innovate as much. In my opinion, if you're constantly trying to innovate, I mean, look at Blizzard. Blizzard doesn't really innovate that much. They just take ideas that are already present and just make really good games based on those ideas. They just improve on what everybody else is doing. I mean, World of Warcraft wasn't the first MMO to come out. I mean, Asmongold made a really good point about this. Blizzard, with their new survival game they're supposed to be coming out with, probably within the next 2 years. I mean, it's not something that's new. It's just they like to take current ideas and just make a really good game based off of those ideas.
Yeah, but I mean, also like I always think that people should be trying new stuff and innovating in anything they can do. So if you don't want to play a game that might be broken because they're doing a bunch of new stuff, just don't
Totally
play
agree.
those games. Play
But
Blizzard games.
but not all the time, right? Like if you want your company to survive, just put out like playable fun games. Don't try and make Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever it is.
For me, that falls into a position of if you're going to try and do something like that, have some revenue source that can sustain you spending the proper amount of time
Well, that's what I'm saying is
doing
like
that.
put out simple, easy, like not simple, but like easier to make games. Something that you know is going to be just like a, take a year or two to come up with and make. It doesn't have to be the most graphically beautiful thing and the most complicated game you can possibly make. Like 76 and Cyberpunk were. Cyberpunk still falls within the realm of the RPG, and so does 76. But it was like such a departure from what is normally done by those developers. It's like you should have had like some in between games, some little things here and there for people to just put money into your company and get that revenue stream in, rather than, and which kind of goes against the whole quality over quantity thing. But
Yeah.
at the to that point, it's like if you're making a game that isn't as complicated to make, it's way easier to make a good game. So it will be of higher quality. It won't be as
Yeah.
buggy.
Well,
You can actually
the
play it day one.
so here's another question since we're on the topic of quantity over or quality over quantity. What is your thought on indie games?
Love it. Yeah, they're awesome.
On like early access, like this isn't going to be complete for
Never.
8 years while we work on it.
That's
Yeah.
a double.
10 years
Yeah,
while we
that's a
work on it.
double-sided sword, honestly,
But I
because
feel
it's
like a
like
lot of those, early access games, even though they call themselves early access, they're really just active development. Like they're
right.
released, they're just
They're
still
alpha
being
games.
worked on. Well, no, not that they're alpha games. I mean, because all they're doing is they have a game and they're releasing updates for it every year. A fully released AAA game would do that, but you wouldn't call it early access. It's just that there's telling you like we've released this game, but we're not done. Like we're gonna make more. Like we're gonna make more product for you because we love this game and we want it to be better.
Well, but at that point, they wouldn't call it early access. You know what I'm saying? Like they would be like, okay, we released it, but hey, we're still gonna put out updates.
Yeah, but then it comes back to what we're already talking about, where y'all are complaining that a AAA game, once it's released, should be done once it's released, and they're
Well,
not
and that's not
saying
what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. It's that It's not that it has to be absolutely 100% perfectly complete and polished.
But at least
Because
playable, like
because
fun and
even games
playable.
back in the day, they still had bugs. But those bugs never got fixed.
They weren't like
So
game-breaking bugs either.
could it have been more enjoyable? Absolutely. But it's enjoyable in its own right because that's what the game is. But like when I'm talking about early access games, I'm talking Ark is a great example because
It's been early access for like its
Forever.
entirety.
yeah, it's never been officially released. And yeah,
Mhm.
there's still
Actually, I think they did officially release it.
did they officially
I think
release
they
it?
did like a year ago or so.
Oh.
I don't
But
remember
it's
that.
one
I
of
don't
those
know for
games
sure.
that we bought at what like when it first got
$15.
announced as early access like fucking 6 years ago.
It was like 2015 because we were in the dorms playing it.
Yeah. And so that's 5 years of air quote early access.
Yeah.
That I'm just trying to get y'all's opinion on that.
So
It
early
being an
access is
indefinite
always
early
going to be
access.
kind of a gamble, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't always, you know, going into an early access game that it's not going to be just the most polished thing ever.
Yeah. And
So you're kind of taking that risk.
I think they need a different term for it because it's kind of like Ark. You know, when it released, it was playable and it had quite a bit in it, and most people would have settled for that being the whole game. But the devs didn't want to be like, yeah, it's released. This is the finished product. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they need a term so they can say like, hey, this is a game. You can play it. It's got all the stuff a game needs, but we're still actively making more for this game. Like this isn't the final product of this game.
Yeah,
Right.
I do agree with that they should have a different name for it.
Yeah.
A different terminology like hey, this is an ongoing development game or something like that.
I mean, yeah, but then that just opens up the window for people to just release these games that are constantly being patched and stuff like that. Which I understand the constant patching, right? Because there's you can always make something better.
Yeah.
But like these are like I don't know. I just have a problem with them releasing games. These AAA companies that are supposed to make like, you know, they have all this money. They're supposed to be releasing these really high quality games, but I mean, most of the time it's not that great.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I like to give the benefit of the doubt to the developers just because, you know, I was doing coding for a while, so I knew a lot of people that did do software programming. And it's never like those are the people that make everything, right? But they don't
Yeah.
get any choice in it. They're just told what to do, and it's like any other job. If you don't do it, you get fired. So like
Yeah.
you know, it's all right to be mad at the corporate structure of it, but just telling them to release this AAA game that's absolute trash. But they're also, I guarantee you, those executives have 40 emails and 30 memos on their desk that all say, "Hey, this is not done. Don't release this," and they're just like, "Nah."
Right, and that's kind of where my gripe is. It's like quit rushing everything out.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's not finished, it's not finished. Like you should have another team or something
Something to
working
work
on
on it.
something else, or you know, you should be more prepared. I guess
Yeah.
is what I really think. Because just the quality of games nowadays, they come out, they suck. I mean, like a lot of them you can't even play because they're so broken on like console or what have you.
Ah,
Which is starting to turn into a thing where companies are starting to really shit their pants whenever this happens because they release a game and it gets terrible reviews, gets terrible reception, and their whole reputation is tarnished because of one release. And it's like, was it worth it, right? Like, was putting that terrible product out worth what you got from it? Because a lot of people bought it because they expected it to be awesome because you hyped it up. I
yeah.
mean, maybe
Well,
they need to work on like PR or something. Like,
maybe.
be like, hey, you know, this isn't going to be a great game when it comes out, just so you know. But then,
But
how do
yeah.
you do that? You
Well, I
know?
think there's like a huge stigma about delaying games. Like when games get delayed, people just go up in arms about like, "Oh, you told us it was going to be ready. Fuck you. We want it now." And then they delay it, but they don't delay it enough because they're so worried about the backlash that then they do rush out these you know, piece of trash games because they feel like they can't take the time to perfect them.
So
I would
maybe
say
PR should be, instead of, hey, this amazing, fantastic, awesome, completely new rule defining game is coming out on this exact date at this exact time, should turn into, hey, we're working on a really cool game that's going to be really fun and really like innovative. We're not sure when it's going to come out, but it's coming. Just know that it's coming.
or go ahead and set your deadline way beyond what you expect it to be done by, like a year or two beyond that. That way, people aren't expecting it on a certain date, like, and then you can't meet that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, say
Yeah,
like it's
but
like a
I mean,
super
that's
cool
happened though. I
game,
mean, but
and they're like, hey, this is going to come out 5 years from now, and then 4 years from now, they're like, hey, we got finished with it, so here you go.
yeah.
Get everybody fucking hype.
I
I
mean, a
mean,
great example of that was what was that Fallout mobile game? Fallout Shelter.
Fallout Shelter.
Yeah, nobody even knew they were making that. They were just announcing what was it? What were they
they
announcing?
were
76,
I
right?
think they were just teasing 76. They're like, "Yay,
And then
here's
they were like,
76, but in the meantime, here's a mobile game."
yeah, that
Yeah.
you didn't even
Hey,
know
by the
about.
way,
Here you
here's this
go.
thing.
And it was great. It got great reception. It was a really good game. I mean, it's still played by a lot of people today, and it's just simple. And it made them tons of money because you can buy stuff in it, even though it's free to play. I know a lot of people who spent money on it, and it's like, just do that. Do that in the meantime while you're actually working on the big game.
Yeah, but just because it works for one doesn't mean it works for the other. Like
Right.
Because it's
Blizzard
one of
and
those
Diablo.
deals where it's one of those deals where it'll work a few times, and then everybody's like, oh,
Like, yeah, we're
well,
bored.
Well,
they're just doing
Well,
this
so
for
do
this.
y'all-
here's
or-
the thing, though. Like, don't make it like Blizzard did with Diablo, and don't make it a sequel. Make it like a side thing, like Fallout Shelter was. It was just a side thing. It wasn't meant to be a sequel, like the Blizzard mobile game, mobile Diablo game.
Yeah, well, but so kind of on that par, uh, Bethesda, they released, what was it, Elder Scrolls Legends, which
I don't even know what that is.
yeah, that's the thing is they basically, I think it was around the same time they did the teaser for 6. They're like, yeah, we're also working on Elder Scrolls Legends, which isn't the next game. It's just a mobile game that you can just waste time in the Elder Scrolls universe. And people were pissed because they were like, well, why don't you? All the developers that are wasting time on this piece of trash mobile game, why don't you put them on Elder Scrolls 6? So like it could work, but I don't know. It's so complicated, like all the
It's a
corporate
really-
structure around it.
It's a hard balance, right?
Yeah. And also, well, so just to kind of bring it back to the whole discussion of quantity versus quality is, I don't think there's anything wrong with quantity games. Like if you don't want to play them, that's that's cool, but
Don't buy them.
yeah, don't buy them. But they release
Wait till the review.
a new Call of Duty every year. They release a new FIFA, new football, basketball, all these games every year, and they're always at the top of the charts for money.
And they're just reskins.
and
They're just reskins, dude.
But they
Like-
are fun games if you're into those type of games.
They
So
are,
I
but I
don't-
wouldn't buy the newest one every time, me personally.
Well,
So
yeah,
I
but
get where you're
that's,
coming from.
Different strokes for
Yeah.
different folks.
Well, I get what you're saying there. Like, don't buy it if you don't, if it's not worth it to you, right? Wait for the reviews to
Yeah.
come out. Quit pre-ordering. Like,
Wait
pre-ordering is
until you
probably like
see-
is we have learned now that pre-ordering is usually a
Bad.
mistake.
I don't think we've learned. I think people still do. I do it sometimes, but
wait
only for
till you see one coming out with features that you like, new
Mhm.
features that you wanted to be implemented,
hmm
stuff like that, and go about it that way instead of just blindly buying every single copy and being disappointed when this is the exact same as last year.
Yeah. Well, see, I do think a lot of this kind of goes back to smart consumers. Like,
Yeah.
if people, didn't pre-order games that they had no information about, they didn't buy games that were broken on the first day, like, if they got some actual reviews, actual gameplay, saw it was smart, and didn't buy it if it was broken, then they would stop doing this. They would start
So what you're
spending the time.
saying, your hot take right here
hmm
is people are idiots
Yes,
from the bottom to the top.
absolutely.
Well, I made the same mistake with No Man's Sky. I pre-ordered it thinking it was going to be awesome. It came out, it sucked, but now it's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fun game now, but
Well, and
still, I
that's-
made that mistake and wasted my money right out the gate and spent $60 on it.
Yeah, and that's to wrap it all the way back around to your original hot take, Brandon, about how the internet are ruining games. I would say the exact opposite. I think the internet is making games more phenomenal than they've ever been. Proof being all the amazing video games we have nowadays.
I think it
And the
goes both
fact
ways,
that-
though.
Well,
It
but
does
and the
go
fact
both ways.
that it does, you're right. Everything does, no, nothing's black and white. But
Just
know,
like
back
your
in
sexuality.
haha, I'm not that desperate yet. Back in the
Keyword,
90s, if they released a broken ass game, which they released a bunch of broken ass games, it died. No one remembers it. No one talked about it because there was no way for them to bring it back up. And there was no talk about it on the internet. Whereas now, if you release a broken ass game, it stays alive for years because people are shitting on it, but it also gives you the ability to fix it and make more content and make it into a really good game, just like No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I think also
I can
people's
accept that.
expectations are like a lot higher now too
Yeah.
than they used to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you go
We're
back and
spoiled.
play like any game back in the day, they were. I mean, they're hot garbage. The controls suck. I mean, like they're still good games, but not nearly compared to today.
Mm-hmm. Everything's
Oh,
so
bro,
refined.
Crash Team Racing, that game was just pure tight.
But I think the real big takeaway is wait, let the games get released, watch the reviews, let all the YouTubers and everybody who has tons of money buy them and play them, and then
got
see
the
how.
copies for free.
Yeah, watch them play them and see what you think. If it comes out and they're like, man, this game sucks, it's buggy, you can't even play it, then don't buy it.
Yeah, like I really would like it, if all the giant corporations took all their time and gave all their employees the best, time scales and time pay and time off and all this stuff, but it's just not gonna happen. Honestly.
It's one of those. It's one of those in a perfect world, right?
Yeah, in a perfect world, everything would be perfect, but we're not in a perfect world. We're actually in a pretty shitty world if you think about it. So
Yup.
it just kind of falls back to, be smart about it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I learned my lesson. I made that mistake with No Man's Sky, and I learned from it. I don't pre-order games now. I refuse.
Yeah. See, I pre-order
think
some
I've
games.
ever pre-ordered a game.
Really?
I refuse
Yeah.
to ever pre-order another game after I was burnt by No Man's Sky.
I pre-order some games, but it's only games that I know I'm gonna buy, no matter what the reviews are on the first day. I'm gonna buy them and play them. Like the Assassin's Creed games. Even if they're game-breaking pieces of trash, I'm still going to buy them, just because I want to support the series.
If you look at it from my perspective, though, No Man's Sky released at $60, and I pre-ordered it for 60, 65, however much it cost to pre-order.
Yeah.
So, and then the price got lowered to like what, $20?
Yeah, that is shitty when they do that.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of games do that. They release it full price, and then are just complete 40, 30% off.
Yeah, and then immediately get discounted to half price.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here like, well, I messed up.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, those are pretty bad. But, I mean, I think most companies, even if that does happen, if you, email their support, they'll be like, yo, I bought this and y'all already discounted it. I'm sure a lot of them will be like, all right, we'll give you half back.
I don't think that would happen for me. I don't have that kind of luck.
I don't know, man. Customer support is all about do whatever the customer wants. So,
well, you know how I am, though. I'm like, it was my mistake, so I'll accept the consequences.
Yeah.
I don't like to bother other people with, me being an idiot.
Right.
So.
Well, because I do think pre-ordering in a lot of ways is dumb, but I do think it can also help with the whole crunch and rushing games out, because if they get a bunch of pre-orders for a game, they can go, oh, we got some money in the bank already. Let's take a little extra time. Don't have to rush this out and actually perfect it for them.
Yeah.
So just like everything in life, it has its cons and pros. It has its prawns. Shrimps everywhere.
Has them damn big shrimp.
I think the biggest takeaway is consumers really need to think about
Do their research.
Yeah. Really consider waiting and seeing what the game's like, because for me, I think that's the biggest thing you can do, because it doesn't
Yeah.
just feed these developers money, even though they're putting out garbage, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only reason they keep making garbage is because people keep buying garbage.
Yeah, I will say, yeah. But also, firm stance kind of on that end. If you buy a game, it's a trash game, get your refund for it. Don't harass the developers. Don't,
Yeah,
they
like correct.
they're
Like they did their
trying their
job. They're just
best,
doing a
man.
job,
Yeah,
you
don't,
know?
especially like people will send death threats and like stalk people because they worked on a game that they may have only, worked on for 20 hours at one point. I'm like, dude, just
Right.
it was a bad game. No one had a good time. Just let it die. Get your refund and go about your life.
Yeah. Fair.
I don't know. Well, any closing remarks on quality over quantity you guys have?
Be patient. Be patient. Wait for the game to come out and see the reviews.
Yeah, I can agree with that. All right.
I
Well,
wish, we could have just great games every time, but that's just not how it works. So you just kind of got to be smarter than the people trying to get your money.
true.
I would
Brandon, you
like
got
to
anything to say?
go ahead and thank Ryan again for that suggestion. It was
Yeah,
a
no,
really good
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah,
topic.
thanks, bro. That sparked a good conversation.
Yep.
Got heated, which is how you know it's good.
But Brandon, you have any closing remarks?
Not really. I mean, it's just one of those deals that it goes both ways, and whatever way it goes is not always the right way. So,
Yeah, much like life.
yep.
Can
Yeah.
all be assumed
Yep.
of that. All right. Well, now to what we were talking about just before the podcast. Um, what we were talking about being sweaty in a game, or just
Oh,
sweaty
yeah.
games and their culture around them. Uh, I feel like I'm very middle of the ground when it comes to most debates. I try to get the positive on both sides. I don't think there's anything wrong with having sweaty games, like try
I
hard
don't either.
games. Well, yeah, try hard games is a better way to put it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's the environment you're going into. You know what you're getting into, and I do think it kind of sucks for newbies for the game.
Well, so here's another thing about it though, and I think this is the point that Nick is getting at. It's not so much like sweaty games, like games that come out and you're expected to try your hardest at this game and do this and do that and do this and do that. I think the point Nick was trying to get at is games that aren't traditionally considered a competitive or like uh competitive or necessarily like try hard games.
Yeah.
Like games that you can just hop in and have fun.
Yeah.
When somebody takes those too seriously and gets sweaty in those games, the not traditional try hard games. I think
yeah,
that
basically.
is that the point you were getting at, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those games that that comes out. It's not really meant to be. I mean, it can be, right? Any game can be played any way you want to play it.
Mhm.
But it's like if you're not playing it for that reason, I mean, it kind of ruins it for you whenever you get in a lobby with somebody who is,
Yeah.
right? And they just have no exception of you just trying to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So like they expect you to try just as hard, and if you don't, they're like
Yeah.
they
suck it
start
out.
being really toxic, and you're like, dude, I don't care that much, You care, I don't.
Right.
Find another. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where
It's
you
one of
can both
those.
leave the lobby, but
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's why I like in a lot of the like newer competitive games they have ranked and then casual, so that they can separate those like two fan bases, because there are a lot of people that want to get into Rocket League and try their absolute darndest and get diamond tier or whatever the heck it's called. But then there are some people who can only play once a week and they just don't they don't want to get in and get absolutely shit on. But I don't know if there's a way to do that in like it's just like co-op games, because we were talking about Vermintide, which is a co-op game. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I guess they don't really need it because you're just your friends, so if you just know if your friends are sweaty, then you know not to get in with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, it kind of makes it hard to have fun and just like chill whenever whoever you're playing with doesn't want to do that, and which is fine. I guess you can agree to play different games or something, or play different lobbies, but it's
Yeah.
why can't we just have fun?
Yeah.
But
What?
then just chilling out and not doing it at the hardest difficulty isn't fun for some people. Like Noah. Noah really likes to have his face pushed against a brick wall and have it ground up and down.
Yeah.
Whereas I do to a degree, but it gets old after a while.
Well, it's also like the whole gaming community in general. There's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on. So, kind of based on like, playing on the hardest difficulty is Dark Souls, like Dark Souls games. I really like Dark Souls games, but they are not nice to new people. Like, they absolutely just want to make you die and hate your life. And if you can't overcome just being shit on, then you're going to stop playing the game. So it's almost a form of gatekeeping built into the game itself. And I don't know, like people argued if Dark Souls should have an easy mode, and I don't know why it shouldn't.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of Dark Souls, though, is there is no easy mode, right? Like,
Yeah, it's difficulty, and you're gonna like it.
and they take that risk, right? Like, if you don't like that kind of game, I mean, that's kind of hard, though, right? Because you don't want to difficulty wall people from playing your game, right?
Yeah, but
so you want people to
actively
everybody
do
to
that.
enjoy your game.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can't
think
please everyone, but
yeah, I think I saw an interview with Miyazaki, the guy that is heading up FromSoft, who did Dark Souls, and
yeah.
they were talking about their new game that's coming out this month, Elden Ring.
Ooh, I'm excited for
I'm
that.
excited for it too. But he was talking about how he might have gone a little overboard with what do you call them, like swamp biomes or poisonous swamps. So you remember in like the original Dark Souls, there was that lower section where all the ground was covered in poisonous swamp water, and if you touched it, you would go super slow and just start dying immediately. And it's
Right,
the
there's a
worst
trick to
section in
get
the
through
game.
there.
Well,
You got
yeah,
to just use the purple moss, and you're fine.
yeah, but is definitely one of the worst sections in the whole game. It's just one of those where he seems like the type of guy that uh, he wants it to be difficult for everybody, and if it's not difficult, well then you're just not good enough, and you shouldn't play my game. I don't know if that should be the thing. I don't know why they can't just make it easy for some people.
Well, I mean, back in the day, there were a lot of games that didn't have difficulty. Like, I remember I still have I have a few PlayStation 1 games that I've played recently, like Rayman and Rayman 2. There's no difficulty in those games. You just play through them, and it's hard. And that's how all games used to be. I mean, there was no difficulty. I have my Sega Genesis, and I go through, and none of those games have difficulty settings.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's hard. This one's hard for me because I do like to be good at video games, and I do like the challenge. But it's like it gets to a point to where like the challenge has to be enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think games can do a better job at guiding the players in some instances, right? And like if you want to maybe make it to where you have it to where you can get hints or something, and then you can disable that. To where it's not necessarily a difficulty slider, so you don't feel like you're, worse at a game than other people. You just need a little bit more help figuring out how to play the game.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of it boils down to.
And there's but there's also an argument like Dark Souls. There's an argument to be made about that.
What argument?
That game has always been.
Well,
this is going to be a hard game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole point of Dark Souls.
It's not. We're making this a hard game to keep people from playing this game. It's just this is a hard game. We decided to make a hard game. If you like it, you like it. Yeah. And it's always been that way. So it's not necessarily, we're making a hard game that you can just make trivially easy by turning down a slider. But they made a decision, and that decision was we're making a hard game.
Yeah. And even though they made a hard game, Dark Souls is still one of the most popular or well-known series in the world. So,
Well,
Yeah.
gamers like a challenge for
yeah,
the most
people
part,
like a
but it has to
challenge.
be like a certain amount of a challenge. It can't
Yeah, it
just be
has to.
ridiculous.
That's I play a lot of Dark Souls like games just because I like
Mhm.
Dark Souls. But there's one thing I notice in most like Dark Souls like games is they have to be like crisp with the controls. Everything else can be garbage, but there should never be a point in the game where I die and go, okay, that wasn't because I missed this dodge, it's just because I pressed the button and nothing happened. Which I think is part of
Yeah.
the reason the Dark Souls games are so good at what they do, is because they are clean. Like nothing happens in those games
You
that
don't feel
makes you think
gypped.
it's your fault. Or well, it makes you think it's the game's fault. It's your fault because you didn't do something right. And then you're like, well shit, now I have to do it right, so now I have to go back in it.
Yeah.
Because I just really like the aspect of overcoming like all the difficult challenges in there. Because you'll start out
Yeah.
getting just trashed by a little skeleton boy, and then eventually you're fighting gods and taking no damage, and you're like, easy.
Because you've gotten so good.
Yeah, because you just memorized it. But I still don't. I think that since there are just so many games out nowadays, that it's okay if they have games meant for specific players. But I also don't think it's something they should just like absolutely die on the hill of. Yeah, no, this is as hard. It's super difficult. Fuck you. You can't make it easier.
I think a bigger problem is the toxicity of some players
Mm-hmm.
too. Like mainly in multiplayer games, but games are going to be hard. And some games are meant to be hard. They're created for a niche market, right? I mean, even though the Dark Souls games are very popular, it's kind of one of those things like, it's kind of a rite of passage, right? Like,
Yeah, like if you beat.
you beat the Dark Souls games, and you're part of that community of people who've beaten the Dark Souls games.
Yeah, they always go, oh, you're a gamer. Have you beaten Dark Souls?
Yeah, yeah, that's like one of those things to prove yourself, kind
Yeah,
of. Even though you don't have to, no one's gonna care whether or not, but there's certain people who do actually care.
yeah. If you're actually good at it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but also so like games like Call of Duty, which I feel like Call of Duty has a lot of tryhards in it,
That's another
and
thing, right?
but
Yeah.
it's also a game that kind of by design is meant for casual gamers. Like it's meant for you to just pick it up, hop in a couple team deathmatch, games, play two, and then don't touch it for a month. But if you do that, then you're just going to get absolutely trashed on by everybody, and you're going to hate your experience and then stop playing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I don't know. Such a weird conversation to be like, should sweaty people? Well, let's just ban them from all games. They're not allowed to play video games anymore.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just I guess it comes down to who do you want to play video games with, right? And what video games do you
Yeah.
want to play with them? Because like I said, Noah really likes to play Vermintide, and he likes to play it on like the really really hard difficulties and stuff like that. And I do too sometimes, but just not as much, right?
Yeah.
Not as much as he does.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to pick that, right? Like I got to pick that battle.
Everyone can find their niche of games. There
I
is
guess just
also
pick the games that are fun to you.
yeah,
Don't worry about what everybody else wants to play. Pick the games you enjoy.
yeah. There's just also just something great about picking up a game where it's meant to make you a god. Like you pick it up, nothing stands a chance to get you. You just press one button and everyone dies, and you're like, "This is great," and I love this. Eh, but then it's
That reminds me of the game Prototype.
oh
Did either of you play
yeah,
that? Dude, Prototype
I
was
don't think so.
awesome because it did that. You're just this guy who can morph his arms into these massive blades and
yeah,
weapons and
and like
stuff, and like,
fly around and kill things.
oh, it was so cool. That's why I never played or didn't really like Infamous, because it basically would seemed like it was trying to do what Prototype did, but I just liked how visceral Prototype was. Like you
Yeah,
could slice dudes in half in Prototype. It was so awesome and gnarly.
yeah, that game was great.
Oh, and then another good example of a game you can just hop in and feel like a god is Risk of Rain. Well, Risk of Rain 2.
That one's
Because you can
great
hop
one.
in there and just get super powerful and play until your heart's content, or you could play on the most difficult setting with all of the artifacts turned on to where it's just impossible. But you can still get to a point that you've got plenty of stuff to make you good, to give you the powers or whatever.
Yeah, make
But
yourself a god.
it's a good example of that. Is you can play that game as long as you want. Really, you can get to a point in that game that you're pretty much invincible.
Yeah, you're like spawning turrets and armor regenning, and every time you get hit, it kills the guy that hit you.
Yeah. Then it gets too like Risk of Rain is one of those games where it gets too repetitive for me. I can't do it because it's like
after
just
a
the
certain
same
point.
thing. Yeah, so I played as much of it as I wanted to, I think.
Every once in a while, I'll get back into it, but it is kind of I have the same issue with that as I have with a lot of RPGs. Is I like the beginning of RPGs. I like when I'm a
same.
underpowered little scrub, hiding from all the big demon dudes, and I'm slowly working my way up to the top. But then once I get to the top, I'm like, all right, well now nothing is a challenge, and I'm bored. And I want to
agree.
start a new character.
Well, and then it turns into like Skyrim. You and me, Jeremy, have played Skyrim multiple times through. Like I'm still, recently learned some new things about it, but it's one of those games where I really like making the new character where you feel fresh and it's like that just like new character feel. Where I feel like a lot of games just throughout, like once you get to to a certain point, they start to lose that that sense of discovery and like sense of like character building. You feel like you hit a wall and you got to like grind through that wall, and I hate that. It just kills the vibe for me so much because it just feels like I'm just grinding just so I can get strong enough to do other stuff, which happens sometimes in Dark Souls if you're not, good enough, but which is fine. You just grind out and level up, but it's that grind that you have to do. It's like MMOs. I can't do MMOs because it turns into this thing where you're grinding. Like that's the game is just grinding. Like RuneScape, I couldn't do it because it's just grinding. I'm like I'm bored.
Yeah, and there are a lot of like RPG. What was I playing? I was playing some game recently where there are like some RPGs and some like loot and shoot games where you get the best gear at the beginning of the game. So then for the rest of the game, you're just using this same gear. And it's not as fun to me because there's no like building of it. There's no progression. It's just, all right, you're unkillable god out of the gates. You may find some other guns that look cooler, but they're not going to be as good as the hand cannon you started out with. So just keep using that, and I hate them.
On that topic, what are your thoughts on like Borderlands? Because I feel like Borderlands does a really good job of that, to where it feels like you're constantly getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It's not just like
it is a really good.
Right, it's not one of those where you get to a point and you're murdering everybody super easy. I mean, you do get to that point once you're max level, but all the way on that whole trip to max level is like, it feels like you're actually making progress constantly. It's not just like there's a point where you're not doing anything.
And Borderlands does a really good job of making the guns unique. Like they'll add some qualifier in there, like this one does poison damage. This one, when it reloads, you throw it at them and it explodes. This one is just throwing the gun at them. That's all it is. So it like adds enough variety. Whereas games like Destiny, you never feel progression in Destiny, or at least I didn't, because you start out with an assault rifle and then every hour or so you get another assault rifle that does a little bit of damage, but since the enemies have scaled with it, they still die just as fast. So I don't know, I just could never get into Destiny because it felt like a cheap Borderlands.
That, and there's no like, I feel what you're saying. There's no sense of accomplishment because like, I've now got this character that has 10,000 power or what the fuck ever, but it plays the same as my character with 100 power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate that power scaling. Like, I mean, to a degree, right? Like, I like for enemies to get tougher and for me to get stronger, but
Yeah.
like, I actually want to feel like I'm getting stronger. You know, like I don't want to just be like this.
Always
It's
feel
like
like
the
you're on the
game.
same level.
Yeah, like it feels like I'm just strong. Like
Yeah.
Destiny, I always just felt like I was just completely overpowered.
Yeah, honestly. But I
That's a
mean,
good point.
because I know we played a bit of Destiny,
Yeah,
and I don't. Did y'all ever play the second one? Any of the
a
Yeah,
second one?
little bit.
So
yeah, a
they
little bit,
started
but I was not a huge fan.
adding in some more stuff. Like there's melee weapons and like just giant cannons you can use, and then like rage modes or whatever. I think they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
going in a really good direction with it. I just don't get why people like putting so much time into those kind of like grindy games where the only payoff really is your power level goes up.
I
Yeah.
agree. And that's what it goes back into, right? You just start to hit a wall where you're just grinding, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't really care anymore.
Yeah,
Especially
it
whenever
gets
it's like that repetitive, same thing over and over and over and over again kind of grind. Like there's nothing else that you can really do. Like there's an optimal way to do it, and if you do it any other way, you're just wasting time, kind of deal.
yeah.
And Destiny has a lot of that. Like there's optimal grinding, and if you're not doing it that way, then you're just it's so much less effective that it's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, kind of related on like difficulty scaling. I really like the way that Fallout 4 handles difficulty scaling. So when you go up in difficulty levels, like most games, like Skyrim, for example, when you go up in difficulty level, all that means is you do less damage and you take more damage. So everything just feels really bullet spongy, which I think
Yeah, I hate
Destiny
that.
does a lot. You know, you
Yeah,
get
it
into the boss
does.
fights and all it is hide behind a barrel, shoot this one spot, then dodge their attacks, shoot this one spot. And but the way Fallout 4 does it is basically everything just becomes glass cannons where you do a lot more damage and the ally or the enemies do a lot more damage. So now you all die in like 3 bullets.
Which
So if
I
you're
personally find that more enjoyable whenever like everybody does a lot of damage because it makes it feel more like actual, right? It
yeah,
feels more realistic and like
instead of just sitting there taking 400 bullets before you can deal them 500 bullets, you actually have to, use the terrain and be stealthy about it and figure out how you're going to kill all these dudes because grenades become super helpful now that everyone dies in 10 points of health. So
yeah.
I don't know. Again, it all goes back to different strokes for different folks because some people really like grindy Destiny games and they're wrong, but we can accept them.
And some of us like RuneScape.
And they're
Yeah.
also
I don't
really
know how,
wrong, but I guess we can live with them.
Kind of have to, huh?
I mean, not
yeah,
anymore.
I suppose.
Well, not anymore. Used to. Used to.
All right. What, you guys have
Oh,
any
you
other
could.
input about sweaty games?
No, I don't.
I
That's
will
about it.
say one of the benefits of sweaty games is when you hop into a sweaty game and maybe you are better or maybe you're just having a good day and they're having a bad day, but you're beating all the tryhards. Oh man,
Oh
that
yeah,
is
that's
so
a
much fun.
satisfying feeling.
That is so much fun.
There's that too. That's kind of where I have that thing because I mean I used to be in a team on CS:GO and we played in open league, so I was that guy with CS:GO. But anybody else who wanted to play with me, I wasn't ever like, oh yeah, well let's play with me on my rank. It was like I'll play on like another profile or something, and we can go down, and then I'll just smirk but not really try, just
Yeah.
so I don't make it, just so it can
Yeah,
still be
no,
fun for them.
I played with you a little bit when like in the height of your CS:GO days.
Right, and I
And
was pretty good, so it's not like I'm gonna
yeah,
make you play with the people I play against because that's just not fun for you. You're just gonna get
yeah, no,
shit
like
on over and
you
over again.
were you were really good at it. I was absolutely fucking dog shit at it. So we just went and played
Yeah.
casual and had a good time.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I feel like more games need to have ranked and casual.
Yeah.
Because if everything is just ranked or everything's casual, then you're not gonna have that area for people, which does create a divide in the player base to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's all in all, you know, try hard games they can be fun.
I think there does need to be in any game that's like multiplayer online, there does need to be like a ranked and a casual area for people though. I think that
And
would be
I think a
nice.
lot of them are moving to that.
It seems like it, which would be a good move because then it just separates that sweaty, toxic player base from the
Yeah.
casual, just fun having player base. Because
But
I mean, I know back whenever I was in CS:GO, dude, I was sweaty and toxic. Oh man, if you weren't good at the game and you're on my team, oh yeah, you'd hear about it.
but there's also a manner where uh they like yeah, they can do that all they want, but if
Stroke there, bud.
He's thinking, dude. He's thinking real hard.
Bringing out the
Oh no,
gears. Oh,
he
there's
hasn't.
Discord.
I think something happened to
Oh
Brandon mid thought.
no.
Damn, and he still has his hot take,
I
dude.
know. That's what
He
I
still
was
has
hoping
his
for
hot take
next.
question. Same.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait for Brandon's hot takes until he
Well,
gets
while we're
back.
waiting on him, do you know who Gus Johnson is? He's like a podcast guy. He was on G4 and stuff.
Yeah, I know. He's done like a lot of YouTube skits, right?
what's stopping those not casual players from just
Wait, is he back?
you hear me now?
Okay, we
Oh,
heard you there.
You
Yeah.
hear me?
You totally disconnected for like a hot like minute or two
Oh
there.
yeah.
I could still hear y'all though.
Oh really? That's weird.
Oh, rip.
Yep.
Yeah, you totally cut out and left, bud.
What the fuck?
Give us your hot take on sweaty games.
Yeah, what's your question for our hot takes, bro? And I want to hear your hot take as well. So go ahead and ask the question,
no.
give us your hot
So-
take, and then
No, so it was in reply to Nick saying that every game should have a
Mhm.
ranked in a casual.
yeah.
What's stopping those like air quote really good ranked players that are all sweaty and try hard and this and that? What's stopping them from going into the casual lobby and ruining the game for those casual guys?
I can answer that
Guys-
perfectly.
The guys that get off at 6:00 and just want to relax and shoot some people in Call of Duty.
I can totally answer that for you. Because I used to do that. I used to go into the casual lobbies in CSGO sometimes. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. But it's not like people are going to be doing that all the time. It's going to happen, and I mean, this is something you're going to have to accept. But it will stop it from happening as often, and it'll reduce that skill gap, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, there are definitely some people out there that just like to be, or at least think they're the best. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna go into those casual games where they can get a 10-0 KD because no one else is anywhere near as good as they are. But then they go into ranked and get trashed on. I
And
don't know.
for me personally, whenever I was playing CS:GO competitively, it wasn't fun to play in the casual lobbies as much as it was the ranked lobbies because you're playing against these people who just aren't as good. So I mean, it's just so easy. It's not even fun.
Yeah,
And that was my thing. Like that's what I think would avoid that interference. But you're not going to get nearly as many sweaty people in the casual lobbies as you would like Call of Duty. Call of Duty, for example, they've been wanting ranked. They've been wanting some kind of because the competitive matchmaking thing doesn't work. I mean, I watched plenty of like Tim the Tatman. I watch quite a bit, and he like all of his friends who play with him and everybody like that always complain about the competitive matchmaking because you'll get put in a lobby that's just nothing but bots. Like everybody's an idiot and they don't know what they're doing, or you get put in a lobby with just gods. And so that's what ranked and casual would separate. Like even if you did suck, play ranked so you'll be playing against people that are of equal skill level.
Yeah, I guess that's true because it'll keep
Like,
you
if
on
you
the
don't
level
care-
that you need to be with.
Like in CS:GO, whenever I would play, and we had a few people that would play with us, and I was way higher ranked than them. But whenever I would play with them at their rank, all of their teammates just didn't care. They were just there to have fun. They didn't really care that much. And so I was like, all right, cool. This makes sense. This is why you're at this rank, right? You just don't care. So you're just here to have fun. So, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with that. I think having a ranking system in every game is good. Just don't make it to where you can exploit that ranking system and get yourself, which I don't think a lot of people would do, but don't let it get to where you can abuse the system.
Yeah.
Which I mean everybody's gonna do at some
Yeah,
point.
everyone's gonna use it a little bit, but it's fine.
We can take preventative measures, okay?
Gosh, no, back out. No.
Brandon, did you want to go ahead and ask your question that you had?
Sure. I mean, it's just kind of some news that I saw pop up across my feed, and I thought it was interesting. Y'all may not, fans may not. I say fans.
We are fans,
Uh,
Brandon.
the me listening to this 2 days later after we release it.
I go in, I edit the podcast, and cut out all of your guys' talking parts so I can just listen to myself.
That sounds about right.
Saves it to his homework folder, dude.
Yep.
That way his mom can never find it.
So there's no porn in there. It's just audio clips of me talking.
just your own self-recordings.
but it's a recording of a conversation where it's just him.
Yeah, me talking.
It's only its parts. He likes to sit naked in his bedroom with his headphones on and just listen to himself talk.
Yeah, lights dim down low, candles.
Man, do you guys watch me at night?
It's a beautiful image, dude.
Anyways,
so y'all know like the GPU shortages that have been going on.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can't buy a new graphics card right now because of scalpers and this and that because crypto prices have been so high.
Well, it's because people are buying all the GPUs to mine or scalp with. So
yeah. So if or anyways,
you okay there,
Intel a little bit. Intel announced that they're releasing a GPU.
Oh, sweet. Okay, that's cool.
So that they can help alleviate some of the
shortage.
The shortage and provide a competition product.
Fair enough. I mean, Intel would like to get in on the competition anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
I know
so,
if just making your own would help alleviate the chip issues.
Well,
wouldn't that just make it worse?
I don't think
they're saying that the chip issues are supposed to end like half 2 of 2022.
They've been saying that every year.
No, last year they were like, this shit bad. They're like, we can't keep up this and that. But I think it's a good thing because with more competition, you get better products, lower prices. I mean, not necessarily lower prices, but better product for the prices.
Yeah. I don't know, my not narcissist, pessimist? The pessimist in me wants to be like, yeah, nah, Intel just wants to sell graphics cards at $2,000 a pop. And that's really the only reason they're getting into it. But I could see, yeah, because Intel is a huge company, so they have the ability to just sell under price and like take the losses on it, basically. Where they're buying the chips for really high and selling underpriced to try to get the scalping down. But I don't know if they would.
I mean, I don't see them being like cheap GPUs at all. I don't.
No, yeah.
But I see just the competition aspect of it. You know they're not going to release some bullshit card. They're competing with the freaking 30 series NVIDIA cards, which are like arguably the best graphics card to ever come out for the money if you could get it for retail price.
Yeah, there's that qualifier.
That's the qualifier. but you know what I'm saying is at the MSRP they listed, that's the absolute top tier graphics card in any bracket you could get.
Oh yeah.
Because it was a 70 series was equivalent to the previous gen's like 2080 Ti. The 3070 was equivalent to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that card, the 2080 Ti MSRP'd at like $1899. And the
Now you can't
3070,
get one for like $2,000.
the MSRP of the 3070 was like what, $499, $599, something like that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be pretty cheap. Yeah.
Like way cheap for what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, I think Intel really has, they have the firmware techs and the software techs and the backbone of it to really put out a decent card for fairly cheap. But does how do I say this? No, because even though the competition of it is good, they're just going to be selling two types of every pre-built out there. Of this one has Intel, this one has Nvidia, and they're both the exact same price, even though one of the cards is way cheaper than the other one. So I feel like the savings are going to be pushed off, or you're not in the end. You're not going to be saving money. Is basically what I'm. If
Nvidia was like actually pro-consumer, then they would they'd drive the price down. But I don't think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, I don't think they're going to drive prices down necessarily. Like I don't see that ever happening with any freaking tech company anymore.
Yeah.
But I see them making competition and either forcing green and red to make a higher quality product, or
green and red.
Well, Nvidia and AMD.
Yeah.
Green and red. It's team green, team red. That's how it's always been.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it boils down to, well, they either Nvidia makes a great product or they make a shitty product and nobody will ever buy a graphics card from them.
Yeah.
Because AMD used to make really, really good products. They're getting back to making good products. But they made their name with good products. So if they make some bad products, well, shit, this year sucked.
Yeah,
and they had quite a few years there. But they're getting back to making better products. Like the 5800 XT is a good card. It's not the best card, but it's a good mid-tier card. It may be their top of the line, but they're not going after the same people that Nvidia is going after.
They're just going for good, solid middle ground.
Yeah, they're like, hey, this is what we can make. We can make it affordable. If y'all want it, here you go. It's a good option.
Yep.
Or you're Nvidia and you're like, well, we've got 99% market share, so fuck all y'all. We're going to do what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. There can always be more competition because, like you're saying, it does just make for better product in the end most of the time. Like, man, Apple needs some competition.
Well, we're starting to see that though. I'm starting to see more and more of my friends and coworkers and family move away from Apple.
Yeah.
Because of the quality of their product.
Yeah, and
because like the battery life on Apple products they have a reputation for having a bad battery life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good reputation to have. And the fact that reputation is known to all of my coworkers and friends and everything like that. And I do have a lot of them that are still like hardcore Apple fans. I just don't really like I don't like how generic the phones are anymore, right? Because you get them, you can't customize them in any kind of way. You can't make them your own personal device. They're not a personal device. I think as a work phone, there's nothing wrong with them. But as an actual personal device, I feel like there's so much better options out there.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like the whole marketing genius of iPhones, that this is simple, this is sleek, it will do exactly what you want it to do, which is text and play YouTube videos. and that's it. That's all you need. Whereas on like the flip side, Android just has so much competition in it that like the new fold phones from
Are you
Samsung,
talking about Samsung or just Android in
Android in
general?
general, but going into Samsung, um, they're folding phones, which I think are the coolest thing ever. They all suck ass at the moment.
Really,
They're
I
not
think it's a
good.
gimmick. I
It
think
is
it's
a gimmick, but
dumb.
it's a step, right? Like it's a step in the further innovation of the product. Like they're not just, oh, we're gonna make you a brick that you can do brick stuff on. We're gonna make you a foldable brick because why the fuck not? And I think it's really
A
fucking cool,
foldable brick.
even though again none of them are good, and you probably shouldn't buy one yet. Give it a generation or so. But just the fact that they're trying something,
Oh yeah.
just because if
I
I could
think
afford
I
to
don't
buy
know.
one of
I
those,
still
I'd buy one.
think the flip phones are just a gimmick to me. I don't really see a point because it just makes the phones thicker. It makes them. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the future where we all have like little foldable pieces of paper that you just unfold and it's a whole computer.
What you talking about? I'm waiting for the future where I just think about something and it happens.
Hey, Elon's getting there. I think they're trying to get human test subjects going for their brain chips.
The Neuralink.
Yeah,
Nice.
I
I
think.
actually was watching Joe Rogan's podcast, like a section where he was talking to Elon Musk, and it's supposed to like you can repair eyesight, you can make people who are paralyzed walk again, all this like really nice stuff. But I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, but you got to get a chip implanted in your head.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think
I
that,
don't.
that's him going, in the future when brain tech is normalized, we can heal diabetes or something.
It just makes me think of that episode of SpongeBob with Squidward where he goes to the future. Everything's chrome in the
Everything's
future.
chrome. Yeah. Which it's gonna be. Everything's, well, I mean, that's what iPhone tried to do. They just make everything chrome.
Chrome is something that rednecks do and Harley riders.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
I think, honestly, here in like 10 years, I'd be down for a brain chip. I don't know if I would want one from Elon, but I'll take a brain
Papa
chip.
Musk,
Yeah.
dude.
I don't want him musking in me.
You don't want Daddy Musk all up in your
I
brain?
don't want musk in my brain.
Oh man.
I'd put a Google chip in my brain though, even though they're probably worse. But
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't know about this. Don't even get me started on not even like Google. It's just Mr. Gates, Bill
oh,
Gates. I'm not
Mr.
a huge
Gates.
fan of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was kind of a shitty person, but who isn't these days, right?
It's just what
True.
he gets himself involved in. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, just go be rich and live on an island. Leave us alone.
Right?
yeah, right. Like, go solve world hunger or something.
Yeah, honestly. All right, well, Brandon, was there another? Was there something else you were gonna ask, or another hot take you had?
No, I wanted y'all's hot take on that.
Oh, on Intel. Intel
Yeah,
sucks, and they should die. There's my. Is that hot enough? Hot enough for you?
sure.
I think that it would bring good competition to the market, but that really isn't the problem we currently have.
Yeah.
As well as like supply chains are still struggling to keep up with the current demand. And working in IT, I mean, I get to see it firsthand. I mean, yeah, there's just not enough of anything for anybody right now.
Honestly. Well,
Yeah.
hell, even as an electrician, we can't get anything. Like meters for houses, huge strands of copper is so expensive right now. But,
Oh, for sure.
we just gotta
I
fix
don't
all them
think
boating problems.
so. My hot take is it's cool. I'm happy, good for Intel, but at the same time, it
Solve
doesn't
anything.
provide us it doesn't provide a solution to the current actual problem.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah.
But I am
Well,
excited for it. Don't get me wrong. I am totally excited to see what they're like. Because if they're like awesome and for a really good price, then sweet. And if they somehow can meet demand, I mean, it's one of those things. We'll just have to wait and see.
so they might
Yep.
have the money to just brute force through a solution. So.
Yeah.
Alright.
And I'm honestly hoping that shortages stop.
Oh yeah,
Because
same.
fuck. God, it's killing me. I've wanted
Yeah,
a new graphics card for 2 fucking years now.
it's just not fun.
Hmm.
See,
I
I'm
want to build a
glad.
PC too. So
Well, so that's kind of another, I guess, tangentially related. Uh, I do think that if we're not in it now, here pretty soon, we're gonna hit a point that they can't really uh, make things better than what they are. Like the upgrades that they're going to be giving chips and computers are going to be so minuscule that we're not really going to be able to see a difference in them. I mean, you see it a lot in phones like Apple already, where they're like, yeah, this is 0.001 millihertz faster, and you're like,
Right.
all right, does that really warrant a whole new generation of stuff?
As
And
well as a $500 upcharge.
yeah, but I do think that again, since Intel already has a huge repertoire of CPUs and just computers in general, that they could help push along the next big step in computer or computing, whatever that'll be. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Where we will actually start seeing like you could run 12 instances of Crisis 3 on your computer and still watch YouTube and it won't even blink because you have the
Yeah.
power of the heavens at your fingers. Like
But I could argue your argument of we're going to get to a point that we can't get anything better. Like, yeah, I think we are. And I think we're getting fairly close to that. But it also means what you buy is going to last longer
yeah, that's true.
because the next big thing isn't coming out next year. The next
So
big thing may be 5 years down the road.
that's a really good that's a really good perspective on it, Brandon, actually, because what if our idea of improvement isn't so straightforward, right? Because Jeremy is talking more of like performance aspect,
Yeah.
whereas in what Brandon just said, things will start lasting longer. We're going to be able to build things that don't die after like 4 or 5 years. They'll last 10, 20 years instead of just the few that they did, and they'll operate at at a higher pace. Not maybe not much higher, but at a slightly higher pace than and over that time period, right? Because I mean, everybody knows that electronics just I mean, we have liquidation dates for our components at work, which is about 4 years, where we just, we're supposed to get rid of them, and you can't use them. We can't sell them because they're old and they don't operate as well as they did whenever they were new, which just happens with everything, even the consumer grade stuff like my laptop. I mean, it's never gonna it's only gonna decline, right? But what if technology advances to the point to where it stops that rate of decay?
Yeah. See,
And that's part of the point I was making, but it's also like, yeah, I that is a good
Well,
point, Nick.
I was just
Because
going off on my own little tangent.
I mean, I agree with you
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Yeah.
But because they can stop worrying about innovating the next big thing, rather improve the current thing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a big thing on everything for me. Like I think about that a lot, and that's something I go through my head a lot. Is just like especially since I'm a car guy and Brandon's a car guy. Jeremy is
I drive a
not
car.
so much. Yeah.
It hasn't
So,
exploded.
but in the realm of cars, we worry so much about emissions and choking these vehicles down so they don't fart as bad. And I'm like, well, what if instead of continuously making new models each year and making brand new vehicles every single year that people upgrade to and buy, so we have to continuously manufacture things, why don't we increase the longevity of things, make it to where we don't have to upgrade and you don't have to focus on the maintaining of the thing you already have instead of replacing it. Because where does that go? Like once you get a new vehicle, that one goes to the scrapyard or goes to somebody else that then gets trashed and has to get scrapped anyways. It gets recycled, but still it has to go through the whole remanufacturing process where it has to be manufactured. And factories create way more pollution than cars on the road ever will. So why don't we stop focusing on choking up all these cars, make them efficient, make them to where they make good power, and stop worrying, make them clean without having to have to make catalytic converters, which catalytic converters are a terrible design because eventually they get plugged up. You have to replace them. They cost like $1,000 at the least to replace. I mean, granted, unless you go to like a chop shop and you just get a cut off catalytic converter put on.
Soul.
Yeah, But like it's one of those things. Like, quit making these things that have to be replaced.
Yeah.
Get rid of the catalytic converters. Just worry about helping people maintain the current vehicle. That way we can cut down on the amount we have to manufacture. You're still going to have manufacturing, but it will be way less.
Yeah, I think
Because
the
we're
simple
going
And most absolute answer to your questions is money. That's the only reason they want to make new ones every year. That's it.
That's why emissions is such a scam. Like, oh, don't even get me started on diesel exhaust filters. Oh my god. Me and Brandon could go off on that, dude. That is
I go for like 3 days on that.
Because it goes into the filter, right? Okay, what happens on a regen cycle? It goes out the exhaust. So it's like, so it ends up out in the air anyways, right? Yeah, it just takes it longer. Okay, cool. And so it doesn't do anything. It just catches it for a little bit and then farts it out the butt of the truck like it would anyways. So instead, why don't we stop making those? And that would cut down. We wouldn't have to make DEF fluid. You wouldn't have to make the diesel particulate filters, which cost like $5,000, by the way.
Oh yeah, they're stupid expensive.
And you have to replace them like fairly often, like what, every like 2 years or so?
That's what's recommended.
And then on Fords, if you don't replace the DPF filter, they just explode. Like the trucks just explode. Bye-bye motor.
Yeah. And I mean,
but you also run into the issue of at one point on the Fords, when they first, it wasn't even a DPF filter, it wasn't any of that. It was just an EGR valve. Okay. So all that does is
I know what it does, but if you want to explain it for the listeners.
I don't know what it does.
It just reroutes exhaust gases into the intake. It's supposed to help heat the motor up, so a hotter motor runs cleaner.
But the Fords had a really bad problem about the EGR would malfunction, and so it would close the gate that reroutes the exhaust into the intake, and it would spool the turbo up to about 10 times as fast as it was supposed to go, and it would just shell the engine.
Yep.
There were so many Fords that I had to work on because either a turbo shelled or anything like that, because they had to fucking put this thing on there that supposedly made it run cleaner.
And in the long run, this is what I'm talking about. And then in the long run, the motor blows up, so they have to produce more of them, right, to replace the ones that blow up and then recall those. It's like it just creates a worse problem that you're trying to solve. It's like, stop trying to do this way.
Yeah. But it really is, because I was watching, it was either earlier today or yesterday, I was watching a video about the history of light bulbs, because I'm lame. And they were talking about how back when light bulbs were invented, they pretty much had already made a unlimited light bulb, like a light bulb that would just run forever.
Yeah.
But then a couple of years later, all the big electrical companies like GE and I think Philips was in there, they all came together and made a pact that were like, all right, we're going to limit how long light bulbs can last. Because if they sell an unlimited light bulb, no one's going to buy light bulbs anymore.
Yep.
So it's just all a big, they got to make money.
Capitalism is killing the earth, dude.
Hot take.
We had a set of light bulbs in my old house that were like 14 years old and still worked.
Well, I do like LEDs. Those are fantastic.
I think LEDs would be a really good thing for the future.
Oh yeah.
Like as far as like doing
they're so much better than every other form of lighting.
Well, they're not as hot. They last way longer.
Yeah, they use way less electricity.
Yeah,
they're just better in general. Well, kind of
like a 60 watt equivalent light bulb LED uses like 3 watts.
Well, kind of talking about like the environmental impact of cars. Electric cars are becoming pretty big nowadays, and I would like to have an electric car at some point. But as they're made now, just to make them, their carbon footprint is huge during the manufacturing because they're working with batteries, which are just awful for everything. But then, especially if you live like us in Texas, where like 90% of our electricity comes from coal power, all you're doing is burning more coal at the power plant by charging your electric car at your house, so you're still
Oh
putting
yeah. Like
out emissions.
like where do you think that
That
electricity comes from for your superchargers? Like that's
Yeah,
just a diesel generator.
yeah,
that and freaking
Mining precious metals
the
for the batteries.
lithium mining
Not even just lithium, just
practices.
precious metals.
Oh
Precious
yeah,
metals have to be strip mined because they're so rare and so hard to get with conventional
you have
mining.
to
You have to
demolish.
strip mine, and that destroys the ecosystem around any of those mines like heavily.
Yeah,
oh absolutely.
Sometimes even to the point of you can't even recover the landscape. Like you can't even recover that
yeah, it's
ecosystem.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so capitalism's
It's like
bad. We should all be communists.
Well, it's like all in the pursuit of like lower emissions, but I don't think emissions is a problem. Like not as big of a problem as they like make it out to be because anytime a volcano erupts, it releases way more carbon emissions than than all of the gasoline cars produced ever will ever make.
I mean, yeah,
Yep.
but that's also considered a natural disaster, so I don't know if we should be using that as a goal
But it's
for.
natural. That the whole point of like slowing emissions is to protect the earth. But if the earth does that anyways, like it creates this carbon emission on its own,
Okay,
like
but
why are
now
like
you're
we aren't going to
saying
do that damage?
that mindset is like, well, the Earth knows exactly what it's doing.
I
No,
mean, it's been around. It's been around for a lot longer than us and been through way worse.
I
I
mean
mean, the
that's
dinosaurs used to be
true.
around, and then a meteor struck the Earth, and it's still here.
You're not wrong, but still, that doesn't mean we should just abuse it
No, I'm
however
not
we
saying that at
want.
all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we don't need to be as I like I say. I think emissions is a scam just for people to make money, and I think we don't need to harp on that as much. Right? I'm
Mm,
not saying
Also,
like
also vehicle emissions do not make up for near the amount that
yeah.
those freighters, those
like
boats, the
Well,
shipping
I mean,
boats.
just cargo transportation. Well, that was my argument. Is I don't think emissions are
industry
a
and
lie.
cargo and
I
all that stuff.
think they're focusing on the wrong aspect of it.
I
Yes.
Like
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
that's one way you
trying.
say it, just in the wrong
Yeah, they're
way.
trying to tell us as citizens that it's our fault and we have to do everything we can. When in reality, like, yeah, we could cut down on it, but we're not really the main problem.
they're
But we
placing
still
the
kind of
blame.
are. Because
They're placing the blame in the wrong spot.
yeah, like the big problem is like cargo ships and mining and like oil production and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
why do they do all that stuff? Because we buy their products. So I mean, it's not our fault, but it is kind of our fault.
True. Yeah, I agree. I think, like you say, like it was with the video game stuff. It's like quality over quantity conversation. It's just like being a smart consumer, picking what you buy, and that's why I tell people don't buy these new Teslas and stuff because their quality control in general, just as like a
Yeah.
product, they're not that great of a product. Like you're
Well,
better off buying like a Nissan Leaf.
I don't know if
Yup.
you've seen like the reviews of some of the Teslas, like their new cars. They're made very poorly. Like
Yeah.
the gapping
Panel
on all
gap
the
is
panels
huge.
is bad. The like quality of their firmware is awful. Like their screen will just brick itself sometimes. And
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm all for electric cars. I want an electric car just because
Same.
I don't want to
Like I do like the electric car thing. Like having an electric car as a daily driver would be awesome. Like
Mhm.
I have no argument on that.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm saving the planet because I
Yeah,
drive an
no,
electric
no,
car.
not at all.
Like that's just not how it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
they are. There has been research shown that electric cars are better for the environment overall. So I mean that's fine and dandy, and I totally see that. But combustion engine cars at this point today aren't that much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're always getting better, so at some point it won't be a different. I'm just waiting for the Star Trek future where we live in true communism and I can just have some pizza materialized in front of me whenever I want.
Well, what I'm kind of waiting for is like everything to be automated and there to be like a universal basic income. So
Mhm.
it's here's enough money for you to live happily and comfortably, and everything else is automated for you, so you can go and just do whatever you want. Which there's like I don't want that. I don't want that personally. There's like a lot of people who are all for that, and I'm not like 100% on board with that. because then I feel like you're just gonna create like a society of like
Wall-E?
on yeah. You're just all gonna be on a little floating wheelchair or little floating chairs and all weighing 500 pounds and being completely worthless. Like we can't like if the whole system crashes, we're just we're
Yeah,
screwed.
Worthless. Yeah.
but some would
No,
say that's
so
the next step in evolution.
I could see it as a benefit of not so much like providing you a way to live comfortably and this and that. If they provided food,
Mhm.
shelter, medicine,
Yeah, all the basics.
the basics.
Now,
Just
whenever
the
you say
basic
medicine,
human rights.
whenever you say medicine, though, are you talking about medical care or just like actual medicine, like in pill and injection form and
I'd
stuff?
say both. I'd say medical care.
Yeah, medical care.
I don't know.
Because
It kind of a
there's a
political
whole
view on it, but just like you should be able
Just-
to, as a
just
kid, break your
avoiding-
arm and be able to get it fixed. Like,
right,
Yeah.
but the whole argument on that is it like requires somebody to perform that surgery on you. So why shouldn't that person get compensated
well, they are getting compensated.
to the degree that they would like to, right? Because like they didn't break your arm.
I mean, yeah, but you can make that argument with teachers. Why do teachers teach? They get trash pay, but they still do it because most of them love doing it. They love helping people.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
career choice issue in my personal opinion. I
I
think
mean-
people just need to choose their career paths a little better. Like being a teacher sucks as far as the
but
pay goes.
it
does
does,
not work.
but we need teachers, and that's a universal thing that we
Right.
just kind of accept at this point. And they
And
get
if people
trash
would,
pay,
like-
but they still do it.
True. If people would stop being teachers, though, they would have to like do something about it, But
Exactly.
as long as people continue being teachers, it's not gonna.
Well, so I would make that same argument with universal health care. I know, like, my sister's a nurse, and I know some other nurses, and they genuinely love doing it. And yeah, the pay is nice, and they're not complaining about it. But even some of them, like when they first get out of college, because I think my sister, when she first started, was making, I don't know, 16, 17 an hour, and I was making 15 at Best Buy, working half the hours, and like not overnights and all this stuff. And she was like, man, it kind of sucks that you're getting almost as much money as I am. And she was like, yeah, but I just enjoy helping people. And I'm like, well, you're a better person than me. So
Yep, same. I would. Like I'm all for helping people, but it ain't gonna be free. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is because you always see like those utopias, like utopian worlds where everyone's just giving things to everybody and everyone's doing their part. And I don't think that'll ever happen. I think utopia is kind of a myth. But I think we can
I
get
agree.
a lot closer than we are now.
Yeah.
Kind of to bring it back onto, and get off of political talk.
Fine.
We're talking about automation.
Not even talking about it politically. It's
That's
just,
true,
dude,
just-
the fucking.
This is more of like
give people
a
health.
moral thing, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly. But kind of going back to automation, like self-driving cars are kind of starting to become a thing. I still think they're, decades off. But my whole thing about self-driving cars is I don't think they can exist unless all of them are self-driving. Like, if
Absolutely.
all the cars at one instance were like, all right, today's the day, everyone's self-driving now, then it would work flawlessly. But the second you start mixing human drivers in with automated cars, it's not going to work. It's going to crash into somebody, and then they're going to blame the AI.
There's also the issue with our infrastructure. I was watching this guy who would take a Tesla and he was basically like reviewing its automated driving, and it had a lot of issues following the roads because he would come across like because this is over up in the northeastern U.S. And so he was, they have like the trolleys and stuff, and it kept wanting to drive on the trolley tracks.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like that's a lot of our either the AI needs to become smarter or our infrastructure needs to be based. It needs to be completely
Like
reworked to work with the AI. So it's like
Yeah.
it's easier for it to read.
Like the infrastructure has to have AI built into it, so it can
built-in mind of AI.
Yeah. So it knows all the layout of the roads. It knows where all the traffic jams are. It knows where all the crossings are. Like, it has to know all this stuff before it will ever become flawless. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever actually get to full self-driving cars.
No,
know.
because there's too many people that like cars.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's
They
the
like
problem.
the joy of driving a car. They don't want to
Just sit there.
have to put their car on an automated truck to drive it to a track so they can unload it and just drive it on a track.
So,
Right.
question,
Because
Brandon.
if automated cars become the main thing, that's how it's gonna have to be.
I'm sorry, it just
Is
reminded me of Obama going, if.
So let me
I
throw
hate
this
you.
hypothetical at you, Brandon. What if, all right, it's 2034, you hop in your brand spanking new Tesla S7, and it's not exploding, surprisingly. You get in, you tell it, "Yo, car, take me to work," and then a little steering wheel pops out, and the windshield turns into a screen that then puts you into an automated reality or a game, basically.
Oh,
That's
that'd be sick.
not you can't tell it apart from real life. You're sitting in your car, you have full access to the gear shift, the pedals, the steering wheel, all this. It looks like you're driving just in the world, and you can just go ham. You can do donuts, you can jump ramps, you can do
Okay.
whatever you want. And it
That's
feels
kinda
like
that's
you're doing it, and it looks like you're doing it, and it's cool.
I've never had anybody put it that way, but that would actually be kind of sick.
Right? And so
yeah,
then you're
it
doing
would be.
jumps, and then
That
you
would
get to work.
actually be because I don't know if you guys, Sam. I don't know if Jeremy knows Sam. Do you know
Yeah, he
Sam?
I
does.
think I've met him.
Okay. So
We
Sam
went riding go-karts
has.
Oh yeah.
He has like a steering wheel and pedal set up at his house, and it is so much fun. So
Right?
if it were like that, then I would be way more apt to do it. But it has to be.
Yeah.
They
It
have
has
to
to be
have something
realistic
for
to it.
people like that. Well, not even. I mean, it could literally just be like his steering wheel and pedal setup, and I would have a blast.
Well,
I
like
mean,
right now, I'm just driving through the mountains in the crew too. Like I'm just driving through
yeah.
the Rocky Mountains, having a grand old time. I've been going like 70 the whole time.
And that would be great, but they would have to cater to that audience, like
Yeah.
that's like a whole thing of marketing, right? Like that would be a whole marketing thing. And I think that would be a good idea to get way more people on board with the idea of having automated driving cars and stuff like
Right.
that.
Or even
So I
like I
totally
think
agree
if
with
you
that.
pitch it like once they do come truly self-driving, don't require any human input whatsoever. They're like, "Oh, get in your car. Once you get in, it doesn't even look like you're in a car. It looks like you're in a theater, and you can just watch a movie while you're
Yeah.
getting driven to work."
I mean, a lot of people really like entertainment. I mean, that's a huge part of our lives is entertainment. I mean, look at us right now. I mean, think we're all playing video games right now.
Right? Like if you just sell it as tired of sitting in traffic on your way to work, well now enjoy PewDiePie's new videos in full surround sound, and then you're just at work when you get done. Like
and that would be
basically
fantastic.
Yeah, that would be really
not
good.
there or close.
No.
I
Not yet.
do think, just because again I believe humans are stupid. If we do ever get to full self-driving, it will be so much safer than humans driving.
Yes,
So
agreed.
much
Oh,
safer.
absolutely.
Oh,
But
Jesus.
it's got to
Especially
be
when it
to a
rains.
point. Oh God, or
Like we live in
snows.
Texas. We live in Texas, so we know, dude. Anytime
People-
there's any kind of slight weather, people are just brain dead.
They lose their minds.
I'm like, what are we doing?
Well, it's not even like they don't know how to drive. I mean, they don't know how to drive on rain, but it's like they get more aggressive because some people do go a little bit slower when it's raining, so then the others go faster and try to cut around them because they're like, "God, people going so slow."
That's me. That's me.
I
I'm the
know
guy
it
going,
is.
Me
"God,
too.
people
I
drive
know it's
so
both of
slow."
you.
Because
But
they
I'm
do.
good
I'm like,
at
it's
driving.
raining. It's just water. It's not gonna
I
kill
know
you,
how to
dude.
drive in the rain.
Like, just drive normally and you'll be fine. Like,
Okay,
just
but in that situation, you're the bad driver. Just say. You
I
can't
mean,
argue.
fair, yeah.
I was
I mean,
about to
to
say,
a
don't
degree.
argue.
The problem is people who want to drive slow don't drive slow in the right lane. That's the
true,
problem.
yeah. That's
Right?
bad.
Like, that's the only time I get irritated. Otherwise, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Oh, but there's one thing I don't understand, and that's it's just raining. It's just raining, right? Visibility's perfect, and people are driving with their hazards on. I'm like, what are you doing? I can see you, dude. Like your hazards aren't helping. You're just wearing out light bulbs. Stop
Yeah.
it.
Well, and
Yeah.
on the flip side of that, of another reckless driver is if everyone is going 10 over the speed limit, but that one dude is going 10 under, That one
Yeah.
dude is the bad driver in that situation.
Yep.
Oh
Because
yeah,
it's far
don't be
more
that guy.
important. It's far more important to go with the flow of traffic than to be the one that they're having to, dodge around because you're going so slow.
Yep, don't be that guy.
Oh yeah, drive with the flow of traffic is huge, dude. I think a lot of people need to like redo driving ed, and that's how
Yeah.
we need to teach it. Like, it doesn't matter what the speed limit is, just
Like,
go with the
yeah.
flow, bro.
Go the speed limit if
Yeah,
you're the only one on the
follow
road,
traffic.
but follow everyone else. You know how your mom always told you not to jump off a bridge if everyone else was? In this situation, jump off the bridge. There's probably an apocalypse or something going on. You don't know. Sorry, what were you saying, Brandon?
Oh yeah, we won't get to a point of having effective self-driving cars until every single one of them is a self-driving car, and every single one of them communicates with each other
Yeah.
and with the signals and everything like that.
Well, but Brandon, if
Yep.
they're self-driving, they don't need signals because they're
I-
talking to
yeah,
you.
I mean,
Dude,
that-
a huge thing.
But
One thing with
you still
self-driving
have
cars, if we had
pedestrians.
full automation, there would be no stoplights
Yeah, you just go
But
not
you
or
still
stop
have
signs or anything. It would be a
Well,
constant
yeah, you
flow,
still
and
have
it would be
pedestrians,
beautiful.
but I mean, pedestrians
highways,
can get out of
yes.
the way. They could dodge.
But no, we would have no stoplights because all of the cars
Yeah.
would just communicate with each other. I mean, that would be
I mean, they would
awesome,
still,
dude.
they'd still stop at some crossing lanes if they need to.
No, they would just slow down and time it perfectly.
No. I'm saying, like Brandon's saying, for pedestrians. Like they'd stop at pedestrian crossings, or we would just build bridges over. The little.
That's what I
little
think. I
bridge
think we would
walkways.
just like
it goes back to the point of it would have to be built. The
Yeah.
infrastructure would have to be built
yeah.
with AI.
Yeah.
Like it
100%.
Well,
couldn't
and
be.
so this is a situation I think where competition is not a good thing. Because like we're saying, for self-driving to really work, it has to be an all-encompassing system. One system that all works together. And if you're trying to set that up between multiple companies and multiple cities, it's not going to happen. It's just not.
Or you create Skynet in car form.
Yeah, that's true. Which I'm down. Let the robots take over, honestly. They do better.
Yeah, they're smarter than us.
Isn't that kind of crazy how there are some AI that humans have built that are smarter than some humans?
Oh yeah.
Just one of those things that kind of blows my mind.
It's the problem is abstract thought though.
Yeah, that's true.
Like robots and AI and stuff don't have the ability to think abstractly and like come up with their own concepts.
Well, like
And why
even
the fuck do we need them to?
that's true.
We don't, but that's the problem, right? Because if you teach them to do one thing, they're going to do one thing to perfection to a fault.
Yeah, but they can't, they can't consider what if your one thing might kill a person, but only like 10% chance, and
like I'll take those chances.
like, yeah, that's fine.
Fair
Screw
enough.
the humans. We don't need them. We only need the one that does our firmware updates, and we're good to go.
Oh, there was one thing I saw recently that I wanted to talk about. If we want to get off the topic of AI and stuff,
go for it.
unless y'all have, so just since we're running.
So we're about to wrap it up here in 10 minutes or so. But
did you guys see the r/anti-work moderator on Fox News? Oh my god, that was tragic.
Oh my god, that was so bad.
I was like, oh dude, why did it have to be this guy?
Why would you go on
why would you go on Fox News?
How do you think you're that self-important?
Well,
As
I mean,
a Reddit
Fox News
moderator.
Well, Fox News is going to be a trap, dude. Any mainstream media outlet is going to be a trap unless they're all for whatever you're doing.
Especially
and
since they're like, we can pin this guy as the face of this whole anti-work movement.
Yeah.
And he's definitely kind of stupid and doesn't know how to handle interviews, so we can make him look bad.
That's the guy that everybody thinks of whenever they think of Reddit. Like, that's the guy that everybody pictures, and you're just like, yeah, you're kind of right.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nothing against him, but I mean,
you should not have gone on.
Could we have picked somebody better, maybe, or just like not gone on at all? Like, I feel like that would have been a great move.
Yeah, he definitely shouldn't have gone on. And I think I read something like all the other moderators of the subreddit were telling him like, don't do this. This is a bad idea. Because I think they all. Did they? I thought they all got a request and were like, no, don't do this.
No, they straight. From what I understand, they picked him.
God, man, I don't know.
I'm just like, ugh. It makes me gross.
Yeah,
Makes
it
me feel
was
gross about it. I'm like,
not good. Not a good time.
no.
All right. Well, on that kind of sad, depressing Reddit note,
Yeah.
any
On that sidle note.
anything you guys need to wrap up before we post this to the internet forever?
I don't
Thanks
think
for
so.
thank you to everybody who listens and watches, everybody I've recommended to and who's given me feedback. I
Oh yeah.
appreciate all of that.
Oh yeah. I mean that like getting topic ideas is something
That's
I think would
huge.
be awesome. Like if we ever
Yeah.
get to the point where we have even tens of people listening that can just ask us questions, that'd be awesome. Be a great time.
Yeah, we ought to once we make social media accounts and stuff, we'll do like Q&As. That'd be really good, I think. Really
Yeah.
Oh
be
yeah.
something to involve people who listen.
Yeah, so we stopped talking about video games so much.
Yeah, just so people are aware, we are thinking of ways to involve listeners more.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
a great time. Well, with that note,
Also,
guys,
yeah.
we're gonna call it so I can go prep for D&D real quick. You guys have a great week, and tune back in next week for more great content. Goodbye.